It gives me a great sense of honor and privilege to welcome Mr. Gurumoorthy, who is a deep seeker and a political activist from Bangalore. And he has a very deep quest for citizen building as well as environmental consciousness. I extend a very warm welcome to Dr. Alok Tandon, Professor Mohanty, and my student, particularly political science student, and many of our viewers, both on Zoom platform and Facebook platform. So we have choose to discuss environmental justice. And environmental is something which is a very deep concern of Gandhian economics. As we know, GSDS weekly forum started its talk with a title called Gandhian economics, and where we came to realize that until unless we dismantle the dichotomy between environment and development, we cannot have sustainable development. We cannot find a pathway of sustainable development. For all of you who are new in this forum, let me give a brief introduction to GSDS Weekly Forum Dialogue. GSDS Weekly Forum Dialogue, it's a initiative of Gandhian School of Democracy and Socialism Forum, which is a platform to promote understanding of the dynamics of society with quest for freedom, justice, equality, and fraternity. It focuses on knowledge and dialogue among concerned persons. We want to bridge the gap between social science and social movement, and cultivating citizenship building, cultivating constitutional morality, cultivating environmental consciousness are a very serious task among institutions. And this is what GSDS Forum does to inculcate democratic ethos among concerned persons. So it is a kind of intellectual forum, and we organize a weekly dialogue on every Friday. Now I request Gurumoorthy ji, who today he will help us to understand the quest, environmental quest. We are living in an age of climate crisis, global warming. So this quest is very important quest, and it is a global concern, and it's an emerging concern. And pathway of democracy cannot, go by discouraging environmental concern. So I request Gurumoorthy ji, and I am very a kind of I know him because we have just attended one summer school where he presented a very important presentation on environment issues, and many of our students appreciated that presentation. I have recorded and I show them. So I thought we should also invite Gurumoorthy ji in our GSDS forum. So Gurumoorthy ji, over to you.
Thank you, Ranjit. Thanks for inviting me. So I may not be able to. I mean, I'm not an environment scientist or I'm normally concerned about the climate crisis and how it's affect the normal citizens. That's my concern actually. So as all of us, we know that the ever expanding capitalism is the main reason for the climate crisis today. And as you rightly said, there are different models could be emerge over the time. So Gandhian model or eco-socialism, which I believe the socialism will be the probably the answer for the climate crisis over the time actually. That's today the capitalism drives the profit and the profit before the planet. That's how it operates. So if you are able to produce for the need and when they're not treating the humans as consumers, probably we can solve the problem. That's what I believe strongly. And my intention is to go to the students and youth to see how we can create awareness to the students on the ever expanding model of capitalism and the connecting with the climate crisis. That's what I've been trying to do over the years, recent times. So I'm not an expert on the climate change as a science and other things. So I'm only looking at the sustainability part of the economy model, which is I believe the very unsustainable model. That's how it is. So today, since we are going to talk about the environmental justice, so we will see how we can interconnect the climate crisis and the environmental justice. So it's a as Randy said, it's a vast topic, and I mean, it's not easy to cover it within the 30 to 40 minutes time. So I'll try to do some justification to that, given the opportunity to me, and so you can, and we can further debate also on further on how we can look at the things in a better way. That's how we look at it. Radhil, can you get the access to the screen, or you will be doing the screen changes?
I'm sharing the screen.
Okay, so how is it possible for me to move the screen?
No, but let me invite you as a co-host, and then you
Okay,
can share the screen.
please.
So now you are co-host, and you can present. Thank you.
Is the screen visible?
Yes, a screen is visible.
Okay, thank you. So that's it. So environment justice. I mean, we know that it's a. We also talk about the Constitution of India and the preamble clearly talk about the justice, fraternity, and everything. So, but we are only taking the one portion, and explicitly Constitution of India preamble does not talk about the environment justice. But those days probably it was not a major concern for the people. So it talked about the social justice, but I'm relating the social justice to the environment justice today. So environmental justice generally means it's a how do you treat people and the involve them and all sections of the people with respect to the development part and the implementation part. So the question arises when the development for whom and what cost. That is a question we are trying to address today. And that's the how do you enforce the environment laws, regulations, and the policies which will enhance the quality of life for the people, not just for the one section of the people. That's the idea. The idea is very simple. No community should be forced to deal with the more pollution because of their race or the socio-economic status or ethnicity or the in India very specifically caste another thing. That's how it should be fair and free to everybody, treatment to everybody. That's So the climate crisis and environmental justice are very much interconnected. It's there's unequal distribution of burden and the benefits. That's where the issue comes. I mean, for example, if there is a dam being constructed to supply the drinking water for a city, I mean, what is a displacement happening in the source where the water dam is being constructed, or if the nuclear plant is being constructed to supply the energy for the city. I mean, how it's affect the people when the nuclear waste is going to affect the people in the area of the nuclear plant. That is the issue. I mean, when climate crisis, all of us are going to be affected. Definitely, entire world is going to be affected. There's a change in weather. When the change, we are seeing the flooding happening in the cities very often. When the erratic weather conditions are happening, the summers are getting hotter and hotter. Winters are getting more harsher. So there's going to be the food security issue for the people, and the livelihood is going to disturb. Migration is going to be affected everywhere. But who's going to be affected more is going to be the marginalized communities, the tribal communities, people living in the coastal places, the women. So those are the people going to be affected. Who can afford to live or withstand the climate change, they can manage. So this affordable population is there instead of population. For example, developed nations, they've been responsible for the large share of emissions for the over the years, but yet they face the less impact. Look at the sub-Saharan countries and the countries in India. I mean, we are seeing the more and more islands are getting submerged within the water all the time. The few years back, Maldives president, he conducted a cabinet meeting under the water, showcasing the danger of the Maldives getting submerged in the water all the time when the seawater is going to rise. But nobody's paying attention to such things. Bangladesh may get affected seriously. Many of the coastal towns in the country, in the world, will get affected. But they are not responsible for the pollution. Somebody is responsible for the emission. That is how it's going to be. So it's a very unequal distribution of burden and the benefit overall. But for example, look at this: when the sea level is going up, it's going to displace the coastal communities, and it's going to affect the fishermen, other people who are relying upon the coast for their livelihood. The droughts are increasing now. Floods are happening very frequently. The entire agrarian crisis is now today depending on the climate change today. When it rains, we are unable to predict the patterns today, and very frequently. Earlier, it used to be very defined patterns were there for the farming sector. Today, when they're ready for the harvest, it rains and it floods, and when the entire crops and everything getting disturbed actually. So it leads to food security for the people like us, but the farmers are going to be affected heavily. How are they going to withstand their losses? So, and the access to water also going to be affected in the drought conditions everywhere. So this year, when we know that the monsoon failed miserably in many places, and some places it was excess flood happening, and even in the wherever the flood happened recently, last 2 3 months, but Tamil Nadu faced a lot of flood issues in Tamil Nadu in Andhra Pradesh. But today, if you go to those places, there is no drinking water at all. Entire water went to the and the sea. I mean, the people are unable to save the water and use it. So only people in the edges, in the marginalized communities, going to be affected in the rural communities. And the heat waves, 100 plus people died in Kerala alone last year. When this year during the summer, and in the urban places in Kerala. So it's going to accelerate the health issues in the urban areas. When we are seeing more and more dengue spreading everywhere, newer mosquitoes are coming up. We are also seeing a lot of newer viruses coming with the climate crisis, and it's not possible for the vulnerable population to withstand those changes, because already we have a very limited access to the healthcare in country like India. I mean, globally also, and the healthcare access to right to healthcare or access to healthcare is very poor in most of the places in developed countries, including developed countries. So the reason why we are talking about this particular forum, talking about the Gandhian philosophy and the socialism, it's important to talk about the climate crisis and the capitalism. Because capitalism, I personally believe that it's driving the crisis globally in the world actually. Look at, because the model itself, it says they expand or die. When we talk about the economy model, the humans, we started with the barter system, and the all the time barter system changed to the money became the driving force of the economy on the model. So that is where the capitalism plays a role, and the ever expanding model, the profit alone and the drives the capitalist system actually. So you have to keep on expanding, and the competition is there, always going to be there, and the market share has to be expanded. Other bigger problem is capitalism doesn't look at the long term issues in the globally. If you look at they live on the quarter by quarter. You have to satisfy the stock market, you have to satisfy the Wall Street, you have to satisfy the Bombay Stock Exchange to get the maximize the returns to the shareholders. That's the only thing. So that's where the problem comes. So to achieve that particular quarter's target or the profit or the better increase the shareholding values, they will do anything. They don't care about the environment. The common goods are not being treated at par actually, and fairly. Nobody cares about the environment. So whatever happens in the, and we will talk about the whatever happened in the Orissa or Chhattisgarh or any places where the minerals are being taken for the big corporate companies and the cheaper rates, and for the profit. So we know how it's being treated. So they don't care about the nature. That is where the issue comes. So overall, the profit before the planet is a mantra for the capitalism. That is an issue, which is deeply connected with the environmental justice also. Screen is not moving. 1 second. Yeah. So finally, who pays the price? That is the issue. The very unequal distribution of benefits and the risk globally. I mean, if you look at the marginalized communities located near the polluted industries, for example, the Bhopal tragedy happened. I mean, whoever is affected, they were all in the communities living close to the Bhopal and gas plant. I mean, the Union Carbide plant, they only got affected. Already they had the access for the clean water and sanitation was the issue for them. And places like Kodaikanal, whatever happened, the mercury dumping happened, and it was globally supplying the mercury. Hindustan Lever was supplying the mercury globally, but they were dumping the mercury waste in the local areas, affecting the local communities as well as the forest areas. And all the places we look at the development projects largely, and the irrigation projects or the hydroelectric projects or the big dams or even nuclear projects, the local communities, tribal communities are getting affected everywhere. They get displaced. and the displacement lead to the economic insecurity for them. They come to the cities for the as migrant workers. I mean, and the overall look at the community wise, look at the women and children, and they are very vulnerable for the because of due to health impact of the pollution and climate change. These are all the people, and I mean, as you see that the benefits are going to somebody else, and the risk is being taken by somebody else in the due to this model. So this largely, I would say that the issues are the multifold, but I will look at only few things. And there's inefficient enforcement of regulation because it's a look at, I mean, the capitalism drives the regulation. Actually, they want to look at what is the right for them. I mean, even look at the EAA, I mean, environmental impact assessment. It's very well modified to suit their need, the corporate companies. That's how it's been done everywhere. So the environment clearance are given without looking at the how they are dumping the waste and other thing. Nobody bothers about those things. And for the marginalized communities, they don't have access to the legal resources to fight against what all the injustice given to them, wherever it is. I mean, even it's various examples are there all over the country and globally also. They don't have access to the legal battle. That's something, and the lack of awareness and education. These are the things. But when what is more important to talk about is when as a country and the Constitution of India and the preamble clearly talks about the justice and the liberty, equality, and fraternity. I mean, the justice today, that time it was talking about only social, economic, and political justice, but we need to add the environment or climate justice also, the changing situation today. So the Constitution provides the room for the justice, but how it's being implemented in the country, that's a question mark today. It's, and there are even and the Constitution also gives the articles talk about the environment issues and how we can take care of those things. For example, I will talk about only two articles, 48A and the 51A. The 48A says the state has a responsibility to protect and improve the environment and to safeguard the forest and the wildlife of the country. And the 51A says it's a duty of every citizen to protect and improve the natural environment, including forest, lakes, rivers, and wildlife. Compassion for the living creature. But we don't follow that. That's a problem. Whether the state is favoring the corporate companies and they look at only profit making model, and the citizens, we are not aware of our rights, and we are not aware of what is being the injustice given to the marginalized communities, because we have the general approach of not in my backyard, so I'm not affected. So why should I worry about what is happening in the Kodangulam or what is happening in the Narmada and the tribal areas and the Orissa and other places? That's a concern we have. Unless we raise to the overall as a community, we may not be able to take care of the conditions. That's an issue. So the system itself is like that. Model. So there are various movements happened all over the country, and to protect the environment justice or to take care of the justice for the people affected by the development model, all the pollution. The few models are very important models. I mean, I would like to highlight here. I mean, the Chipko movement, all of us know that that's one of the historically, I mean, the contemporary places, that's one of the important movement to prevent the deforestation happen. And that's Silent Valley is another movement which early time, even 70s and 80s, they talked about the protecting the forest environment against the energy project, which is going to supply to the urban areas. That's areas. NBA is one of the greatest movement in the worldwide actually, and even today it's been recorded as one of the bigger movement in the environmental justice movement globally. And still justice not given to the people displaced, but the history will tell the importance of the NBA movement and to the globally. It's when the still people are displaced and they are unable to get their right, what are due to them, they are unable to get it. And the Orissa and Chhattisgarh as multiple movements are happening all over the places. When the anti-Bhaskar movement, Kasipur, Niyamgiri, and the Walko movements of Orissa, Chhattisgarh, all the places. I mean, whoever is fighting for their rights or to protect the natural resources, they are being treated like anti-development or even the anti-nationals. by the companies. So companies, they know how to, corporate companies, they know how to manipulate the system there. And they run the smaller incentive, they give the smaller incentive to the people in the means of CSR and the other and welfare activities, and they take over the land, they take over the minerals, they take over the even the the natural resources like in the hills. Well, the minerals are very, very deep in the minerals. They look at even Manipur, whatever happened there last year. And the Manipur, it's largely more than the ethnic and the religious issue. There is a much beyond that actually. So there is going to be a lot of environment related issues are there, and where the tribals or the local indigenous people, they have right over the land, those places, that is being threatened by the corporate companies. They were unable to take the minerals from those areas because the land rights are not given to them. So by creating the conflict between the two communities and the two religions, now those companies will be very happy. All the time they will take over the land and they will get access to the minerals in the Manipur also. That's going to happen everywhere. So that's the issue is, the profit, and to achieve the better profit, to get the natural resource at the lower cost, to get the natural resource, and the companies can do anything actually. When they will get the cheap label, the companies will do anything. That's where the capitalism operates actually. So, and the other important movement happened in the contemporary time. It's a quote unquote movement, and the other places also there in the India, and the globally also, and the nuclear energy. That globally we consider as one of the clean energy, but the issue is waste. How do you treat the waste, and who's getting affected? When the cities are getting the energy from the nuclear energy, we are all happy. But the whoever is living close to the nuclear plants, we don't know what will happen to them. When the waste is not treated properly, we have not found the means of treating the nuclear waste properly in the globally. We don't know what will happen to those places if something goes wrong. We have a example of Chernobyl, what happened several years back. So, what will happen to Kodankulam? What will happen to Kalpakkam or any other nuclear reactor? Nobody will know. But we will not get affected. But the people living there, the close by areas, they will get affected. The other bigger problem is the ongoing problem worldwide. The India and other places is industrial pollution. Very classic examples. Two examples are Bhopal and the Kodaikanal. So Bhopal is one of the biggest man-made disaster and the industrial disaster which we have witnessed in the recent times. That's even after several decades. The people are fighting for their and to get some benefits or get their dues, justice. Nothing is happening in the Bhopal. As corporate companies, they know how to manipulate things and how to manipulate the environment laws. Kodaikanal is another classic example, and the mercury dumping happened by the Hindustan Lever, and so much of after so much of protest and other thing, were able to resolve some problem in at least the company was closed, factory was closed in Bhopal and the Kodaikanal. So like that, it's several movements are happening globally and all over the country, but the struggle is, the whoever is getting affected, only they are only coming to the struggle. The other people, common people, we don't care about what's happening in those places because we are not getting affected. It's not in my backyard. That's the approach all of us we have. So that is the issue. Unless we strengthen the social and community involvement, we won't be able to solve the problems in the environment justice, which is also, that both climate change and the environment issues also. There are a lot of things we can do, but I don't want to bore and the students with what we can do. But more importantly, the community actions are important. Individual actions are important to some extent, and what we can do, how we eat our food, and how we save the energy in the day-to-day life, and how we consume the water. Can we avoid look at simple things like look at transportation contribute to the 25% of the greenhouse emissions worldwide, and that's only increasing. Is it possible for us to reduce the carbon emission or the greenhouse emission by doing small steps? But look at this. These are all should be the policy issues. Most of the things, and we may not be able to influence the policy issues unless we build the socialist movement or the eco-socialist movement or climate movement worldwide. But till that happening, we cannot keep quiet. At least we can take some baby steps. Can we how do you ensure that we can use the public transport when they reduce the carbon emission globally? Those are all things we look at. So multiple things can be taken. Small things. How do you make use of the rainwater? How do you make use of solar energy? But will it solve the problem? No. We are only. I mean, these are all token small things, but to keep ourselves satisfied. I mean, I'm doing something meaningful, which is also important. But at the same time, we have to look at the larger picture. I mean, how do you look at the community-wide action, and can we look at the how do you support the marginalized communities who are all getting affected by the disparities in the development? How do you support them in the when the we may not be directly get affected by the displacement happening to the particular community in the mines displaced mining or called the dam construction or the nuclear plant construction, but can we provide the solidarity to support them? Can we provide the legal support to them? Can we provide them and sitting in the cities? And, is it possible for us to provide the even the today the social media is very powerful? Is it possible for us to create the awareness for them? Can we participate in the community initiatives tackling the environment issues? Can we support the grassroots movements, amplify their voices, and who are all fighting for the environment justice for their own places and even for the globally also? Is it possible for us to influence the elected officials to support the policies to promote animal justice, which is a political issue? When and capitalism may not allow, whatever we are trying to do, and they have a larger interest in the so-called development model. So they may not be able to make much changes unless there is a large-scale protest happening on the ground. Actually, they may not be able to do that. And there is we have to look at the can we demand the stronger environment regulations. Can we utilize the framework? NGT is there, but it's not very meaningful these days. And the polluters are not be accountable. Polluters doesn't pay for the whatever they're doing. That's the issue. So we also need to look at the innovation and development, clean technologies, and the infrastructure. But these are all smaller things. But unless large scale, I would say the system change is more important than the rest of things. As a model, economy model, capitalism is responsible for the most of the violations happening worldwide in the environment concerns, and the people are not able to get the justice, climate justice or the environment justice, unless the very fabric of the capitalist model is broken. Unless we look at the different models, because we are all learning as a humans. We don't know what is the right model. Could be a mix of the Gandhian model, could be a mix of socialist model. When the various models could emerge, when the Gram Swaraj could be a model. The possibility of the fourth world may be possible today. When it's produce only for the need. Maybe go back to the earlier pre money model. Go back to the barter system where we don't produce for the profit. Produce what are for the based on the need of the individuals, and could be there is a possibility. We have to look at that, because I strongly believe that two major crises we are going to face the recent times is already we are facing. One is a climate crisis, other could be the artificial intelligence. So these two could be put the probably it's a positively look at that. It could put an end to the capitalist model in the economy model, or it could put into the humanity. Both are possible. So how we are going to handle it? The next 50 years or the 100 years is going to be define the humanity in the next centuries. The humanity may not come to the end. There is possibility people are talking about system extension. We won't see it in our lifetime. Next few generations, they may not see it in their lifetime, but it may happen few thousand years later or few hundred thousand years later. But till then, the suffering is going to increase for the people. The climate crisis and the injustice on the environment crisis, another thing. So how do we work with the marginalized communities? Can we stand with them? So those are the questions we need to ask. The Greta Thunberg or anybody in the lot of small, even initiatives happening globally. When the Western countries are today learning the need for the eco-socialist model, and which I believe personally that it's going to be the probably the only solution for the climate crisis. We may be touching the point of no return, because the more than 400 and the parts per million, the million, the ppm, the carbon emission is already happening globally, which scientists they've been telling that it's a point of no return. But we have to live with that. There's no other choice. The 2 degree increase is already happening on the global temperature. global warming is already happening, but we'll be living with that. There'll be more and more diseases will happen with the climate crisis. The people on the edges, I mean, the marginalized communities, particularly the urban slums, they are going to be affected largely. Tribal communities will be affected largely, and the rural places, I mean, the farmers will get affected due to all the climate crisis and the environment justice. Can we stand by them? Can we work with them in the long run? Those are the questions, I mean, we need to look at. When our own lives will get affected, definitely. Food security is going to be the issue for all of us. We will end up eating the genetically modified food. We may not be able to get the crops in the right time. And a lot of farmers are moving away from the crops because they don't know whether they are unable to get the stable climate conditions to grow crops. People are moving to the fruit trees in many places. But can the humans live only on the fruits? We don't know. So probably we'll end up eating the genetically modified food. The factory grown food will come all the time. And the US people are talking about taking the tablets now to reduce the hunger feeling actually. So we may get into those things. The humans may live longer with all the scientific advancement, but can we live can we have a quality of life? Can we live peacefully? Can we coexist with the nature? Those are the questions we have. None of us we have answers, but we have to find answers. So we have to work with the movements. We have to work with the people who work on the environment issues and the climate issues, and find some model which will prolong the life of the humans in the earth. And that's what I think the concerns are there. I mean, I stop with that. I mean, we can have a discussion next few minutes.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Gurumoorthy ji. It was really very uh, enriching presentation and a very informative presentation as well. And yes, the problem of environment is deeply and primarily related to the model that we practice, which is capitalism and greed-based civilization. And has only one problem with this civilization, that is greed.
Yes.
And that is why when we think about Gandhian economics, like J.C. Kumarappa, so they talked about small is beautiful. They
Correct.
talked
You're right.
about decentralization of economy.
Yeah.
So unless we change the approach, we cannot have environmental justice and, for that matter, sustainability. So thank you so much for sharing a very deep presentation.
And as you rightly said, Gandhi said, "Earth has the resources to meet the need for everybody, not the greed."
Yes, so the
the very
dichotomy, the region of dichotomy between need, between environment and development is because we replace greed by need.
correct.
Uh, so now I request a respected participant to share some of their reflections. We initiate by inviting Dr. Alok Tandonji, who is a very deep Gandhian scholar. And today is his birthday also. So we wish him a very happy birthday.
Happy birthday, sir.
Yes, Dr. Alok Tandonji.
Thank you very much, Ranjit ji, for wishing me and for bringing it before us a very, very important topic of environmental justice. And I thank the speaker for giving us a lot of information as well as his explanation of the crisis and linking it to the other forms of injustices because of the economic model of capitalism. There is not much difference of opinion about his analysis of the cause. But the question is that why there is no such a big protest movement all over the world against this economic model. There are pockets. There have been many small protest movements. But why there is not a big movement against the capitalist model itself, opposing certain policies which affect certain sections of the society is one thing. But protesting for an alternative model, that is the question. And is it due to some sort of seduction, some sort of consumerist way of living, which we have all been provided by the developed capitalism, which is it the cause behind this? This is my question. And second question comes to my mind when we talk about Gandhi. So there is a distinction between need and greed. Can we make this distinction today? It is very easy to say, but now if you talk to anybody, he will say, what you call greed, these are my new needs. So is there any you can say way to distinguish between the two? And the third part is Gandhi's approach is dependent upon ethics, and politics perhaps comes after that. I agree that now environmental problem has become a political problem. And unless and until policies are being questioned, unless and until model is questioned, unless and until some alternative model is accepted, this is not going to give any sort of justice to those who suffer from the environmental crisis. But the thing is, can we start with a more modest way of living, just like Gandhi? The way of life which is not consumerist, the way of life which is not for living for the profit or for exploiting of the nature. So many times we hear about such type of ethical approaches. What do you think about it? Because the leadership which is needed for these types of protest movements, from where it will come? Those who are politically suffering, they will protest, but that protest is within that capitalist model. Can we envisage, can we go for some sort of movement which may project some sort of alternative economic model and the politics for that? This is the question. I think the speaker must respond to these queries. Thank you.
No, you're perfectly right, sir. So it's a capitalist model is a ever expanded model. I mean, it treats humans as a consumers. Unless whatever they produce, they have to keep producing things. There is also, I mean, the built-in obsolescence coming with all the products. 20 years back, what all the refrigerator we would have got at homes or some other products, we would have used for 10 years or 15 years. Today, it's not possible. There's a built-in obsolescence. They need to keep producing more and more things. They want the humans to consume more and more products faster, quicker. I mean, we are all happy with the 20 years back, what are the computers we had. Today, we are unable to use those computers. Mobiles are getting, once in 2 years, people have changed the mobile phones today. So so much waste is being produced and dumped on the earth. I mean, there's a lot of money spent by the capitalist companies, the corporate companies, to encourage people to buy. Switch on the television or the media, a newspaper today, when the day in, day out, they're asking people to buy things. So unless we buy, unless we keep buying things, they won't be able to survive. That's the way the capitalism operates. So it's not for the need today. So we keep consuming more and more things. And the morning to night, I mean, the televisions and the media, they're asking us to buy things only, not more than that. So we earn money to only consume today. So that model, if you don't break it, it's not easy to come out of this model. So that's uh, the global issue is, I mean, every country is today the capitalist country, and the capitalist country means in a few corporations run the entire world. The pharmaceutical companies, all the defense companies, all the technology companies, they run the world. So they want us to consume. As simple as that. So is it easy to break that model? It's not easy. They control the media. They control everything today. They influence people. The amount of money spent on the advertisements globally. I mean, there was a data I used in other presentation. 2017 alone, US, they spent $26 billion on advertisements on the FMGC companies, the consumer companies. They spend so much money. So I mean, we know how much money is being spent the corporate companies on the consumer products, and even India also. That's why. So that's why it's important for us to go to the students, go to youth, to create awareness and see whether can we have a sustainable living approach. Unless we do that, unless people, I mean, I know here even the people like Sandeep Pandey, he doesn't even use the mobile phone. Is it possible for others to live like that? We don't know. Is it possible for us to live simply? I mean, it's because there's also a huge peer pressure on all of us. This current model, post globalization, everybody thinks we have access to resources today, and the resources are endless in the world. Actually, that's where the issue comes. So, mm, is it possible for us to look at the models like J.C. Kumarappa model or the Gandhian model, or even the Marxist ideology-based socialist model, to which is a question. So, so we don't. Nobody has clear answers. But there are models. I mean, Cuba has shown the model to the world. When the when the entire world is when they're looking at the chemical-based agriculture, they move to the natural farming, organic farming over the night. When the Soviet Union collapsed, maybe when there is a need, when the necessity comes, we may change our model. There's a possibility. And today, entire Cuba is on the organic, natural farming they are doing. The necessity may drive the humans to do that. COVID showed the way we could stop the production globally for the year or so. Nothing was produced. Still, we were able to live peacefully. I mean, we were able to live. Probably a lot of natural resources got better in the first year of lockdown. The water bodies got better, in the forest deforestation reduced. So maybe the nature will teach us how to do that. But can we learn from those models? I mean, wherever the models, smaller models are emerging, and the fight against the capitalist model is a question. We need larger movement, bigger movement. Political will should be there, and all the major political parties globally, they're all capitalist in approach. So they come to power. So and the corporate companies, they drive the countries. So is it possible to build the people movement against those things? Is a question, but it will happen. I think all the time. We keep working on those efforts.
Yes, thank you. May I add some word?
Yeah.
These days I read one very important thinker called Arne Nash, was a Nehruvian philosopher, and he was also a businessman.
Mm.
And he gave the concept called deep ecology. And he said that the ecological preservation can only be happen by non-violence method. Unless we practice non-violence, we cannot solve the problem of ecological crisis. And he says that, of course, there is no going back uh, to technology, but he suggested that uh, shallow ecology He gave the idea of cell ecology, which means reducing greenhouse gases using technology to maintain our current way of life, or and we have to recognize deep ecology, which means recognize that climate change is not just one symptoms of equally consequential breakdown in other areas of the complex web of life, such as habitat destruction, biodiversity crisis, or the topsoil erosion. It is out of respect for all life form. So we have to cultivate the idea of uh, deep ecology, which we can see in Gandhi's philosophy. And it has been discussed, when 1972, when the a report of like Club of Rome, the limit of growth, that comes with a new imagination of the idea of degrowth, and it's a sense of condition of global equilibrium. And we have to again revisit the degrowth, and we have found this sort of temperament. People belong to elite culture, having a bicycle and so they are concerning towards environment, the rate of industrialization. They are again going back to um, at least they are trying to decentralize the economy. And you are rightly mentioned that problem of environment is the problem of economy, the model of economy, the problem of inequality. It is not just a population problem. It's a problem of redistribution of wealth. We have invited a very good friend of mine who wrote a book of climate justice. And he made a distinction between climate justice and environment justice. He says, unless we solve the problem of injustices, we cannot have a proper roadmap of sustainable growth or environmental injustice. So there is a concern of social stratification, which is there. So that is very important. We have to, unless we cultivate the non-violence of approach, we cannot solve the problem of environment injustices. Now I request Sandeep Pandeji to share some of his reflections. Somaya Yadavji has also joined. Rad Sarapamaniji. So please unmute and share your concern or reflections or comment. Let me share there in the WhatsApp group. There are two questions. One is what is the role of economy in? I think this question has already been answered. Another is what is the way out of? So we are discussing the way out of problem solving. So one. So he's asking about the why international conventions are not functional or not working. One of our student, Ritik Raj, he has asked that he is giving why international conventions are not working functionally.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, because who controls the COP? Then it's a question, isn't it? We know the recent COP, what happened in the Dubai, when who was sponsoring that, and the oil companies sponsor the COP. That's a question. That's a joke. I mean, the worldwide, all the world leaders, they fly the private jet to attend the COP. And I mean, where are the representatives from the marginalized communities? Where are the representatives from the tribal communities, affected people? You know, who decides and what is happening in the IPCC? That's the issue. That's a larger political question. Whatever he's asking, definitely it's a and, and then who are getting affected. We don't have a right to fight today. It's when the even look at the even the mining problem. What are happening in the Orissa or Chhattisgarh? They are not only fighting for their displacement. They are fighting for the preserving the natural resources. Tribals are more concerned about the natural resources than anybody else. That's they know they exist with the nature. Then us, we are moving away from the nature. The people in the urban, urban conditions actually. But whenever they fight, and we treat them as anti-nationals, we treat them as anti-development people. So the question is, a development for whom? At what cost? That many of us we don't understand that model. We are all happy with the faster roads and bigger roads, bullet trains. We are all happy. And what is the environmental impact? And is it okay to travel 2 hours slower than what the bullet train can offer? It should be okay. But we want the faster things. We want the faster internet. How much of money is, I mean, how much energy is being spent on the data centers globally, and the artificial intelligence today, whatever we are talking today, is going to consume and the millions of wattage of power. But humans, we want that luxury everywhere actually. That's including the information available to us on the hand. So that's where the economy model also lies. When the even the not small companies, a lot of small corporations also they die in. Only the big companies, few companies only will survive. Look at the Microsoft market capitalization. They talk about $3 trillion, much bigger than many countries. As a country, we are talking about the achieving the $5 trillion economy, but the one company has a $3 trillion market capitalization. How do you fight against those companies? How do you? They influence the system. That's
Yes. Yes, we are suffering from a disease of deforestation of mind. And humans are so they do not concern even non-humans. And the dichotomy between nature and culture, the dichotomy between environment and development, it's a problem with the philosophy. And that is why Nessi's philosophy is very important. We should also give the importance of non-human nature.
Yes.
For its own sake, rather than just for its instrumental values to human. So the kind of science we practice, even when we talk about religion, I talked to one of my student asked me that what Islam talk about environment, what Christianity talks about environment, and what Hinduism talks about environment. So we can use some content of a religion also, like Hinduism, as Hinduism gives kind of emphasis on nature. So we can also make some kind of realization from religion also. Yes, Somaya Yadav wants to share some. Yes, Somaya, please unmute. And Somya. please unmute and ask your question. Soumya is taking some time. So, thank you so much. Would like to say, yes.
Is somebody?
Yes, yes. Oppo F17.
Yes, I want to share something.
Yes, please unmute. Yeah.
Yes. Just got this link, so I joined. I found that someone activist is speaking is more important to me. Being an academician, it's better to, sometimes I feel very handicapped and I feel like listening to activists, because I sometimes feel that we are not able to maybe communicate with the rest of the world, and that's why we are not able to stop what is happening. Now issue is regarding what is the approach, as we are talking about that there is an approach which is growth intensive approach to development, and which is which needs to be stopped, will limit to growth. And no one is I'll say everybody is, most of the governments, most of the states of all over the world, and mainly in case of India, I'll say they are very much they are not caring, they are not bothering about what is happening. What is actually is taking place is that managing the show. If I am a government, if I am in the government, if I am ruling, so I have to manage the show. So I am just trying to make a somehow giving a kind of managing the situation by showing that I have got this much growth. My country, during my tenure, this much economic growth is taking place. But then how much it is going to sustain, we are not aware of. And who will bail the cat, who will do that job is very important. And I find social activist is very important here, and they really take lot of initiatives to raise the issues, go to protest, and taking up many other actions for making them understand. So what I understand is, of course, we understand that nowadays, not now, for quite a long time, many of the countries are going, even G20, you see, they are going for this taking care of the climate change they're taking care of, and then now we are also talking about carbon zero carbon emission, or carbon energy transition. So we are not in favor of the country. They're taking care of certain things. They are going to stop energy transition. So I mean, we are going to stop use of carbon. So that may be a kind of positive signal to some extent, if we can really do that. So development, though it's a matter of question for the survival of many who are dependent on carbon energy in the carbon industry. So survival is at stake, and we are trying to develop some strategy how to take care of these people who are dependent on that. Anyway, so my point is that where I want to focus is the role of state mainly, and the kind of policy we need to focus on. There are other aspects, as I say, that activists are very important, because knowledge is not going to help us. As we know that this plastic use is not good, but then we are not stopping it. See, every one of us are not, if you just make a survey and see the educated people who know that plastic is very harmful, even then they are not ready to take a bag with them for market. So this is one side where everybody should be careful. But I mean, as individual, as member of society, we should be very careful. But in another side, we find that the role of state. So maybe the problem should be addressed from all sides, and no side is less important. Then maybe we can think of getting some solution, or we can delay our devastation. That's what I want to say. Thank you.
I agree.
Yes, I may like to add some point, like the way Narmada Bachao Andolan and the Chipko movement, they helped a state to revisit the idea of development. And I differentiate between activist knowledge and expert knowledge. And environmental movements, they are full of activist knowledge, like the Bandhana Siva, the kind of movement she has initiated for fighting against globalization, fighting for indigenous seed movement. So these are movements of praxis. And expert, knowledge, they are not able to reach that level of praxis. And even for cultivating environment movement, it is not just talking about problems or talking about pollution, but inculcating a environmental consciousness, which is again I found activist scholars, they are doing their best, and we have witnessed success of Gandhian non-violent environment movement in India. We are joined by Shankar Tiwari, who is a deep seeker and political activist from Nepal. I request him to also share some of his reflections.
Soumya Yadav also wants to talk.
Soumya,
could not unmute it.
I think she has to unmute by herself.
Okay.
Maybe we can again. Alok Tandonji has also raised a hand. So maybe Alok Tandonji.
Ranjit ji, you have talked about Ananias. He is a Gandhian thinker, and his deep ecology is very, very much discussed throughout philosophical circles. But the problem is, now we look at nature from an instrumental point of view because of the economic model of capitalism. Can we reverse it? One or two persons like Gandhi or some Gandhians may think about nature and other things in a very non-violent manner because they are committed to non-violent philosophy of non-violence. But are the others, the majority, are ready to accept that? Unless and until, my point is, the issue is political. But who will fight? From where the activists come? The question is, unless and until we decide that standard of living, which is projected by capitalism or multinational corporation, is not the ultimate good life. Good life does not mean a consumerist life. Good life is something different. And when we think in that way, then we will be ready to reduce our consumption level to a sustainable level, which is available to everyone. What is happening in this world? A small percentage of people are using the largest amount of human resources. So they are not going to cut back their consumption unless the majority forces them to cut back that level of standard of living is not sustainable for the whole of the world. So what we have to think that a good life on this planet is not a life of maximum consumption, but are our young persons, our policy makers, governments, corporations, advertisement. This is all against all this. So odds are very, very much difficult now, because philosophically we may think like underneath that this is the question of, and religions have always preached about all these things, but they have all become ineffective in the face of the power of capitalism. So we need people who can appreciate the environmental issue with the understanding of larger human values and human life, quality of human life. Unless until we think that quality of human life is somewhat different from gathering so much quantity of things and consumption items, we are not going to fight against all this which is being done today. So I think this is the ethical point which needs to be addressed, which we generally not think of.
Yeah.
And I think this is a very difficult thing to convince anybody. So that's why future seems to be very bleak. Because we have few activists, we have got small amount of protest movements, and after some time they subside, and the whole progress and development model goes on. So to break that, we need a alternative ideological model. An alternative ideological model which gets the commitment of people. If we talk with your Gandhian model, young persons, they don't feel attracted to that. So how to bring that generation to this type of thinking is a big challenge. And that is not challenge for only for the economic crisis or for the environmental crisis. It is challenge for all types of crisis which humankind is facing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And now, final word from Gurumoorthy ji, and then we'll have end of the session.
I don't know whether it's a final word or not. We have to start somewhere. That's a concern. I mean, unless we look at the building the movement and the national movement, look at the climate crisis and how do you work with them? And the various groups are going to get affected definitely. And but they're all we have trade unions, we have the women organizations working on their own issues, other thing. But how do you work with them on the when they look at the climate crisis, also part of their agenda, the struggle. The farmers' movement happened very strongly, but is it possible for us to work with them closely? Look at how this can be one of the agenda for them, because every community is getting affected, but the marginalized communities, the communities from the rural areas, the tribal communities are more affected by than anybody else. Actually, so how do you initiate a dialogue with them? How do you initiate the dialogue with the students? That's a concern, because the future belongs to students, and unless they are aware of and the crisis which they are going to face. I mean, the people in the 40s and 50s and 60s, probably we have seen the good part of the development part, and we enjoyed a lot of things. And but what are we going to leave it to the next generation? It's a concern. So how do you work with the next generation students? That's a concern. So
Thank you. So on behalf of GSDS Forum, I'm very thankful to M. Gurumoorthy ji for giving a very informative and deep presentation. Very thankful to Dr. Alok Tandon ji, Shankar Tiwari ji, Professor Mohanty, Prashad ji, Sonu Kumar ji, and all my students watch this program from Facebook Live. and second room Zoom group. So thank you all of you for your kind presentation. We look forward for your kind participation in our coming GSDS Weekly Forum Dialogue. Thank you so much.